Hey, Michelle, how's it going today?
A little crazy, Lindsay. How about you?
Oh my gosh, your topsy-turvy summer
It's a
just
topic
carries
that
on, right?
yes, yes, but it makes for fun conversation for sure.
For sure. So what are we getting into today on the podcast?
Oh, well, this is kind of a funny thing that timely, Lindsay. I've been meaning to ask you, do you have any vacations planned?
Oh my gosh, I actually just booked a trip to Slovenia. I'm so excited. I've never been there. I want to go hiking. So, yes, that is my
Wow.
plan, Michelle.
That
Yeah.
is that is very exciting. How did you decide on Slovenia?
Well, I heard that the hiking is great there and they have a hut to hut system where you can book a package where you could go hut to hut, hike 12, 15 miles a day. It's the Julian Alps, I guess, which I know nothing about, but I'm going to learn. And just outdoors, good wine, good food. I don't
That's
know. That's
great.
yeah.
Sounds
So
great. We'll
so
have a
that's the
great
plan.
time.
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
But today we are going to answer a listener question. And before we get into that, we have been doing these Spotify polls, and we had a poll from a few weeks ago that was episode 2228. It was Nana, Mimi, or Grandma, the
Mm.
evolution of grandparent names. Remember that one? That was fun.
Yeah, that was really fun. A lot of variety and creativity in terms of the names people choose. So we did ask you guys that special poll, right? And what was the poll question, Michelle?
So the poll question was, would you rather have more of a traditional or creative grandparent name? So we had our listeners
Yes.
put their answers in. So Lindsay, what were the results?
All right. So traditional was 60%, right?
Mhm, mhm.
And creative was 40%, which kind of makes sense, right? Most
Right.
people kind of fall into the traditional
Grandma,
grandma,
grandpa.
grandpa, or the equivalent in our native languages, right? But
Right.
40% of you guys are getting creative. I love that. I love that.
Yeah, I love that too. So that's fun. So thanks for answering that. And yeah, Lindsay, now we have a listener question from Matu. I'm sorry about my pronunciation.
I think it's
Matuas Mateos.
Mateos, probably something like that.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Logowski.
Yes, and I just wanna highlight, where today's lesson came in at the top of the conversation, Michelle. You said, "I've been meaning to ask you, do you
Mhm.
have any vacations planned?" What is first of all, what's the feeling behind that, just before we get into the question?
That I was thinking about it before
Yes,
this moment.
yes. I love that. Yeah, but you just hadn't gotten a chance to do it yet, right?
Exactly. Yep, yep.
And if our listeners are really listening in, they're gonna hear different uses of grammar today. So this is going to be a little bit of a grammatical episode and a vocabulary episode at the same time. Should I go ahead
Yeah.
and read Mateos's question?
Please.
All right. Mateos says, one case popped up. I've heard, I've been meaning to tell you. Based on that, we could create a sentence like, I was meaning to tell you that yesterday. What is your take
Mhm.
on this? All right.
Okay. Yeah, this is a great question. This is a super common thing to say. I've been meaning to tell you. This is a really, really good question about a particular expression, but also some grammar to go in here. So,
Yeah.
Lindsay, if you say you've been meaning to X,
Yeah.
not just necessarily tell you, but I've been meaning to call you, I've been meaning to do something. We
Yeah.
touched on this a little already, but what does that mean?
It means that you've been wanting to do something, but maybe you just haven't had the time. It hasn't occurred to you in the moment to do it, but it's something that you've been intending to do. That's another great word for that. Intending,
Right.
right?
You've been
Intention.
yeah, it's about
Yeah.
intention.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. So, but it hasn't been done yet. So,
Yes.
Mateo's asked about, I have been meaning to tell you.
Mhm.
Lindsay, so when would you use that? I've been meaning to tell you.
Yeah, I think, if you've had something in your head, maybe there's some information, maybe there's a story, right?
Mhm.
When we first got on the mic today, you told me a story that maybe you had been meaning to tell me until you did
Mhm.
tell me just a few minutes
Uh-huh.
ago
Yep.
that you saw something one of our listeners online and it was kind of funny and
Yep.
yes, that is so good. I love that. So something you have been intending, maybe you forgot to the last time we met, right?
Yes. Yes.
All right. So Michelle, where to from here?
Right. So I could say something like, Lindsay, I've been meaning to tell you, I have a friend who moved to Denver. Maybe you could introduce her to some of the best places in the area.
Nice. I like that. I like that. So
Right.
before you just hadn't told me for
Yeah.
some reason, and finally you brought it up. Oh, yeah, that's right. I've been meaning to tell you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I could just say, "I've been meaning to tell you," and just say it. I could also say, "I've been meaning to tell you that." So I could say, "Oh, I've been meaning to tell you, pause. I have a
Hmm.
friend who moved to Denver." Or I could say, "I've been meaning to tell you that I have a friend who moved to Denver." Right?
Hmm.
You could add
Sure.
that in. Which does one or the other feel more natural to you?
Well, I really like I've been meaning to tell you, I have a friend who moved to Denver. I like that because instead of that, you have a place for intonation and enthusiasm.
Mm,
So
interesting.
the first one feels more natural to me. What about
Yeah.
you, Michelle?
I think so, I think so too, actually. I've been meaning to tell you, and that but you do have to give a tiny little separation
Pause.
in a way. It doesn't have to be anything huge, but some sort of separation from what you
What
from
you're
I've been meaning
telling.
to tell you and what you're telling.
Yes, I
So
totally agree with that. It's taking the place of that, right?
exactly, exactly. So
Interesting.
here we would use the present perfect continuous. So I have been meaning ing to tell you.
Mhm.
This is something that started in the past, and until this moment, we've been intending on doing that. So let's do a few more examples. What's one, Lindsay?
You could say, "I've been meaning to buy a new computer, but I haven't found the time yet." And that is true for me. My keys are falling off of my keyboard. Michelle, it's not good.
I would also it's funny because I thought that this computer was done, but then I deleted a whole
Ah, that
bunch
can
of
happen.
files, and it seems to be brought back to life. So
Yeah.
I don't know though. We'll see how long she
It's
can
just
stay kicking.
well, the thing is these are projects because I like to research. I'm not just gonna walk into Best Buy and buy
Mm,
one. I'm gonna go multiple times. I'm
right.
gonna research. I'm gonna Google. I'm gonna watch YouTube videos. So it's like you're opening up a chapter in your life of researching the next computer.
Right, and
That's
you have to be
why
ready for that.
you have to be ready for it. This is why these things can get kicked down the road for 6 months or a year, right? At least in my
Yeah.
world, it can.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I'm the same way. So or I could say, "I've been meaning to call her. I wonder how she's doing." So again, from the past, I have been meaning to do something up until this point, but I haven't yet.
Good, perfect. Or I've been meaning to tell you there's a huge sale this weekend at Macy's. Nice.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I love this episode today because this is a really good opportunity to work on grammar, but in a very natural setting, in a very real conversation by using this language structure. I've
Right.
been meaning to do something. Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, Michelle, where do we go from here today?
Okay, so now let's go over this other grammar piece. So, our listener asked if you can say, "I was meaning to tell you that yesterday." What
Hmm.
do you think about that, Lindsay?
Well, it's just not the most efficient way to say it
Hmm.
because what I would say now that yesterday's over and today is today, I would say, "Oh, I meant to tell you that yesterday."
Right.
Right? It's just a little bit I think when we use that past continuous, it has to carry real meaning. And in this case, it really doesn't matter because the better thing to say now is, "I meant to tell you." Right?
Right, right, right. Exactly. I meant to tell you because we're focusing on that one instance.
Yeah.
The word yesterday really sticks out in my mind as why that would be really just a past simple uh,
Yeah. I
construction.
think anytime, Michelle, we can just use the simple past, we
Mhm,
totally ditch the past continuous or the
mhm,
past perfect or the present
mhm.
perfect for the simple past because it's just easier.
Right,
Right? Yeah.
right. Exactly. So you can just say, "I meant to tell you that." If you say, I was meaning to tell you that, it doesn't really work. I meant to tell you that. So, there are other options, but that's the one that I would directly relate from I have been meaning to. If I wanna just talk about that one instance in the past, yesterday, I meant to tell you this, but I didn't.
Yeah, and I
Yeah,
think this is gonna be really good news for our listeners, what we just said,
yeah, make it easy.
when using the more complex tenses doesn't add extra
Yeah.
meaning, it's not material, you can just go to the simple one,
I
right?
think
We
that's
love that.
yeah, that's really helpful. I think sometimes it's natural to think things are more complicated than they really are. So that's a good thing to remember, guys, in general when you're speaking. So, I mean, you could also say, I had been meaning to tell you that, right? So
Yes.
let's say I told you something um that I
Well,
didn't tell you in a while, but
Well,
right,
I mean, the example would be what you shared a little story with me before we got on,
right,
but maybe that story happened before our last recording session, but you forgot.
right,
And then finally today you told me, but it's still in the past, the time you told me, right?
right,
So, by the time you told me, you already had been meaning to tell me for a while, but you had
right.
been forgetting.
Yeah.
And then you told me. And now we're in the present. So it's like 2
Woo!
steps back. I know. This is why we just don't use the past perfect that much, you
Yeah,
know?
it's really I wouldn't worry about this, but because I don't know that that's as common for this type of situation, but let's do a couple with that
No.
past simple, which I feel like can be pretty common. So, what's one with I meant to tell you?
"Oh, I meant to tell you about the cancellation, but I forgot. I'm so sorry." That's
Mhm.
one. I think I've missed the first one, but you could tell us the other example, Michelle?
Yes. So the other one is, "Oh, I meant to tell you, Tracy can join us on Friday." Right.
Nice.
It's really just
Yeah.
one thing. It's one particular issue. It's not I it seems to me I've been meaning to tell you it's something that's been circling around in your head for not just a second.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's been lingering,
It's been
kinda lurking in
lingering.
your mind. So the
Right.
main tenses that we use here is the simple past and the present perfect, right? Or the
Yeah,
present perfect progressive. "I've been meaning to tell you," or "I meant to tell you." Right? Just those
exactly.
2, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I would focus on those for starters, get used to that. If you wanna make things more complicated and you wanna add in a past perfect, we can please write to me and we can do more examples of that in a future episode. But to me, these are the most common ways we would use this.
Love it. Well, let's start into a role play because we want to bring everything back to real English right here on this podcast. So, here you and I are friends. All
Yes.
right? Good.
All right, here we go. Hi, Lindsay. I can't believe I ran into you.
Same here. I've actually been meaning to call you.
Really?
Yeah, I wanted to know how you like your new haircut place.
Oh, that. Yeah, that's great. Oh, I meant to write a review for them.
Oh, you could probably still do it.
Okay, yeah, I should.
And I really want to point out here, and you have this starred to talk about today, Michelle.
Mhm.
I put something in between I've been meaning, right? I've and been. What did I put in there?
Right, so you put in "actually." So what did
Yes.
that do?
Oh, that actually is fascinating what it does.
Yeah,
I know we've probably gone into this in other episodes, and we probably will in the future do
yeah,
more episodes about this.
good, yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't. I don't know, Michelle. I'm gonna throw this over to you.
Well, it doesn't it doesn't change. You could it just adds something. You could
Yeah,
take it out. I coulda
sure.
You coulda just said, "Oh, I've been meaning to call you."
Yeah,
Actually, in this situation, to me, sounds in a way that you're highlighting that it's a
a
coincidence.
coincidence. Totally, 100%. I would agree with you
I've
there.
actually like, wow, I can't believe we
Oh,
ran out because I've actually been
yes.
meaning to call you.
Yeah. And so often actually is inserted there to show that you're surprised. There's a bit of a coincidence. It's
Right.
surprising. I was thinking of calling you and then I've seen you here now. It's like kind of interesting, kind of
Like,
amazing.
"Oh, wow."
Right. But also sometimes people will use actually when there is no coincidence. It just becomes kind of a filler word for some people sometimes,
Yeah.
which is
It's a
another
very common.
episode
I
for
mean, it's a
another
very,
day.
very common word, actually.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, right. So, I do know that we have done episodes on actually in the past, but I think we could use a refresher,
I think that would be
an
really cool.
updated one. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
I'll plan on that. So
Yeah. Let's do that.
and
Hmm.
then the second one was I said, "Oh, I meant to write a review for them." So, interesting here. I could have said, "I've been meaning to write a review for them." That
You
would have
could.
been fine
Yes.
too. To me, I it sounds here I said, "Oh, I meant to write a review for them, but I forgot." Right? And almost like
Yes.
I think the opportunity has passed in a weird way because you said, oh, you can probably still do it, right? If I said, oh, I've been meaning to write a review for them, it's
I probably
maybe,
wouldn't say you can still do it because
yeah,
because it's going up until this point,
right,
right? The present progressive is up until now. So you know that now you could still write that review. So
right.
that's a really, really subtle difference there.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. But yeah, so really there you could use either and it would be fine. But
Right, right. Love
this
that.
overall, I mean, as far as the takeaways for today, this is just so useful. It's a good introduction to what you're going to say. It's a good signal that you're about to introduce something that has been in your head. Lindsay, what else do you think about this?
I mean, it's a really good way to talk about your intentions, the things that you have been wanting to do, that you want to do, the direction you want your life to go in, right? Like, for example, I had, before I made a change to my evening routine, I had been meaning to do this for a long time, but I started leaving my phone in my office when I go to bed. So
Wait, do
no
you
more
really?
phone. Yeah, no more phone by the bedside, Michelle. No more New York Times at 11
Oh,
p.m. I'm not doing. I
wow.
can't do it. It's especially now because we're in this crazy moment politically. I just can't. I can't do it.
I was gonna say, I'm surprised you're able to do that now. I feel
yes,
that I would
yes.
just be more so
Yeah. No,
wanting
so
to
I
know.
went to Amazon. I bought an old clock like from the 1980s where you can actually maneuver the hands. Nothing digital about it. No blue light whatsoever. Put it right by my bedside. I've been sleeping better. It's just
Gosh.
so much more peaceful. Oh,
Wow.
it's great. But I had been meaning to do that for like a year,
Right.
but then
Take
finally it occurred to me I better do this.
yeah. Oh
So
my gosh. Okay, well, I should take a tip from you
so
because
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
tired.
Yeah, no, totally. So this is about intentions, right? We can articulate and this builds connection because it shows people what we want in our lives. I've been meaning to do that. And I just showed you the example of the past perfect, which is a little less common, but just to bring out the meaning, the context
Right.
there, right?
Yes,
Good.
exactly.
Yes.
Okay, well, guys, we hope whatever maybe this episode is going to spark your memory of something that you've been meaning to do. So, go
Yes.
ahead and, after this episode, go ahead and do what you've been meaning to do.
I love that idea. That is the call to action for today. Do what
Yeah.
you've been meaning to do. Don't do
Yes,
it tomorrow. Do it now. Love
do
it.
it
So good.
now.
And guys,
Okay.
by the way, if you have been meaning to hit follow on this podcast and you haven't done
Ah,
it, it's an easy thing to do. Just hit that follow button so you can catch all of our episodes 5 days a week. Good
love
stuff.
it.
All
Okay,
right.
well, this was fun. Lindsay, thanks for chatting today, and thanks to our listener for that question.
All right. Talk soon, Michelle. Take
All right,
care.
bye.
Bye.